The tension on Stegethi's sun hadn't fully risen yet, but the set was already buzzing with quiet movement. Grips rolled cables across the ground. Camera operators checked lenses. A makeup artist stood with brushes clutched in one hand, yawning into her shoulder. Everything felt like the calm before something. But no one knew what was coming. No one expected the tension that would erupt by noon. And definitely, no one expected that Keanu Reeves would be the reason people talked about this day for years. To come but not in the way you'd think, Keanu arrived early as usual. He walked with soft steps and a thermos of green tea. He nodded to everyone he passed. Didn't need to be loud, didn't need to announce himself. He just was present. Grounded, quiet. That was his way.
Oh.
He didn't dress like a star. Black jeans, an old t-shirt, worn boots that had walked more cities than most people ever would. But when he entered a space, people felt it. Not because he demanded attention, but because he respected everyone around him. Today's scene was so tough. Long monologue, heavy emotion, one camera pushing. He'd done 1,000 like it. But the director wanted something different this time. Rara, realer, and standing across from Keanu. In the scene was someone fresh, young, eager, maybe too eager. His name was Zeke, 24. Breakout star from a streaming drama that had gone. Viral the year before, people said he was the next big thing. He had talent, no doubt. Energy, too. But behind the sharp eyes and good bone structure was something else, attention. Like he needed to prove something to someone all the time. Zeke had barely said 2 words to Keanu since shooting started. When they passed on set, Zeke looked away. During read-throughs, he read fast, like he was racing the clock. Crew members noticed. Some said he was nervous. Others said he was cocky. No one really knew, but everyone could feel something was off. It started small that morning. They were blocking the scene. Keanu stood across from Zeke, waiting for the director to adjust the lighting. Zeke leaned against a pillar, arms crossed, eyes distant. Then he said something not loud but loud enough for those nearby to hear. "You know, I don't get the hype," Zeke muttered, eyes not even on Keanu. He barely says anything, just stands. They're like a statue. How is that acting? The set went still. Grip froze mid-step. The makeup artist lowered her brush. One of the assistant directors tilted her head slightly, like she misheard. But Keanu didn't react. Not with a look. Not with a word. He just kept his hands in his pockets and looked toward the lighting rig above, like he hadn't heard a thing Zeke noticed. He glanced up and saw Keanu not responding. Maybe he expected a reaction. Maybe he wanted one. But he didn't get it. And that silence, that total calm made the moment hang heavier in the air. After rehearsal, the crew took a short break. People whispered behind water bottles and beneath their breath. No one wanted to say it out loud, but they were disappointed. Some were angry. Others were just confused. Keanu Reeves had never disrespected anyone on that set. Never been late. Never complained. He ate with the crew. Remembered names. Stayed after wrap to help clean up props. And now, a kid, barely in the business, had thrown shade at him like he was disposable. But Keanu, he walked back to his trailer like normal, quiet, unbothered, still sipping his green tea. What happened next, though no one saw coming? Around noon, they were supposed to shoot the big scene, the one where emotions needed to peak. The camera would push in slowly on Zeke's face as he delivered his final line. Then Keanu's eyes would shift just slightly in. That would be the moment. The director had described it like a heartbeat cracking open, but Zeke couldn't nail it. Take after take, he stumbled, overacted. He rushed his words. His eyes darted to the camera, then back to Keanu. He was sweating, blinking too much. Director called cut 5 times in 10 minutes. "Let's take 5, the director said, finally rubbing his temples. Zeke sat down hard on a wooden box, face in his hands. Crew members gave him space. No one said anything. The energy had shifted. The whisper of doubt was growing louder, and Zeke knew it. His fingers curled into fists. His jaw clenched. He had talent, but talent wasn't helping him today. And then, without warning, Keanu walked over. No script in hand. No camera rolling, just Keanu. Soft steps. Calm presence.
Ow.
The same boots Zeke had joked about yesterday. "Hey," Keanu said gently, standing just far enough to give space but close enough to be heard. "You want to run lines?" Zeke looked up slowly. His face was confused. Like he didn't believe what he just heard. Like it didn't make sense. "What?" he said. "I thought it might help," Keanu said. "I know this scene's heavy. Sometimes just running it a few times without pressure helps smooth it out." Zeke's eyes narrowed. "You want to run lines with me?" Keanu nodded once. His face was calm. Trace of sarcasm. No hint of resentment. "If you want to," Keanu said softly. "No pressure." A long pause. Zeke didn't speak. For a moment it looked like he might say no, like his pride was about to throw another wall between them. But then, something broke in his face. His shoulders lowered. His eyes dropped to the floor. And he nodded barely. "Double quotes, yeah," Zeke said. "Okay." They stepped off to the side, not far. Just enough to avoid the camera setup, and there in a quiet corner of the soundstage, Keanu Reeves' global icon. Beloved star began to run lines with a young actor who had insulted him only hours earlier, and not just once. Keanu read with patience. When Zeke rushed a sentence, Keanu paused and smiled. "Take your time," he said. "No need to hurry." When Zeke fumbled a word, Keanu didn't flinch. "Happens to all of us," he said. "You should have seen me on my first day of speed," bit by bit. Zeke's breathing slowed. His voice evened out, his hands unclenched. He started focusing. Not on impressing the camera, not on being the next big thing, but on the scene. On the words. On the moment. By the end of the break, Zeke had found something. Not perfect, but real. Grounded. "You ready?" Keanu asked. Zeke nodded again, firmer this time. They went back to set. This time, Zeke delivered the lines with weight, but he didn't try to act. He just spoke, honestly. And when he finished his final line, his eyes welled, but he didn't force it. And in response, Keanu's eyes shifted just a little, and that heartbeat the director had imagined. It cracked wide open. "Cut," the director whispered, barely loud enough to hear. That's it. The room was silent. Then a few crew members clapped, then more. Not for the performance alone, but for the moment, for what they'd just seen. Not just in the scene, but behind it. And Zeke, he looked at Keanu. Really looked at him. Not as a statue, not as a legend, but as a man. And for the first time since he arrived, he smiled. Whispers in the hallway the next morning came slow and heavy. The sun hadn't broken through the clouds, and the sky looked like someone had dragged a gray blanket over it. The studio lights inside still buzzed with energy, but something had shifted overnight. Not just in the air, but in the way people looked at Zeke. They didn't avoid him. They didn't mock him. But there was something in their eyes. Curiosity, maybe, or quiet expectation. Like they were watching to see who he'd be today. Zeke felt it. Every step he took felt like it echoed louder than usual. He kept his hands shoved in the pockets of his jacket. Head low, no earbuds in for once. He didn't feel like music, didn't feel like drowning anything out. When he reached his trailer, there was a small folded note stuck in the door latch. It wasn't typed. It's just plain black ink on white paper. Nice work yesterday. Let's keep going. No name, no signature. But he didn't need one. Zeke stared at it for a few seconds and tucked it into his jacket without saying a word. On set, the vibe was different too. The director gave Zeke a nod. One of the camera assistants offered him a fresh bottle of water before the scene started. A lighting tech gave him a thumbs up. Small things. But they added up. No one said it out loud, but they'd all seen something yesterday. Not just the scene, not just the emotion, but the humility. The moment Zeke stepped down from ego and asked for help, and the way Keanu gave it without hesitation. They were shooting 2 dialogue-heavy scenes today. Both called for more subtle emotion, but still with weight behind the words. And Zaki wanted to be ready. Before the first take, he walked up to Keanu. "Can we run it once?" Zach asked, his voice steady but low. Keanu looked up from the script and smiled softly. Absolutely. They stepped aside again. Just like before, but this time, no tension. No pride hanging in the space between them. Only two actors, trying to get the scene right. As they rehearsed, something became clear to Zeke. Keanu wasn't rushing him, wasn't trying to one-up him, wasn't even trying to teach. It was just present, honest, and that made Zeke slow down. Listen, respond. Really feel the lines. After the third run-through, Keanu paused and looked at him. "You're doing good," he said quietly. "Just remember, don't try to impress the camera. Speak like it's the only truth that matters." Zeke nodded slowly. He didn't speak, but something shifted in his chest. He hadn't realized how hard he'd been trying to be seen, to be recognized, to be impressive. And here was a man who could walk into any room and be all those things. Without ever needing to try, the first scene of the day went smooth. The director clapped after take two. They got it clean, simple, emotional. Honest during lunch break, Zeke sat alone near the edge of the lot. Sandwich in one hand, script in the other. He wasn't used to quiet moments like this. Usually he scrolled through socials or called someone just to fill the silence. But today, he just sat, thought. And that's when someone approached it. Wasn't Keanu. It was Marcus, the head of props. Older guy, maybe in his 50s. Kind eyes, rough hands, always moving fast between scenes. He sat down beside Zeke without asking. Pulled out a thermos and poured some hot coffee into the cap. "That was solid work this morning," Marcus said. Zeke looked over, surprised. "Thanks," he replied, "trying to get better." Marcus nodded and sipped his coffee before glancing. "At Zeke again, you know?" he said slowly. "When Keanu worked on that action film a few years back, he stayed late every night, learned all the stunt teams' names, carried boxes with us. Didn't have two but did." Zeke blinked. "Really? Yeah?" "Same with the crew meals. Didn't matter if it was steak or cold spaghetti. He sat with the boom mic guy or the lighting intern. Never pulled rank, just respected people." Zeke swallowed hard. Something in his chest twisted. Marcus smiled and stood up. "Keep showing. Up like you did yesterday," he said. "You'll do just fine." And just like that, he walked off. The second scene came around later that day, more intense. One of those dialogue face-offs that needed rhythm, timing, emotional control. Zeke was nervous, could feel the energy in his fingers and the back of his neck. Right before they called action, Keanu leaned in. "Forget the script for a second," he whispered. "Talk to me. Just talk." When the camera rolled, Zeke did, not perfectly, not smoothly, but truthfully. He looked Keanu in the eyes and delivered the lines like they were born in his gut. Like he wasn't acting anymore. Like he was living inside that moment. When the scene ended, there was no clapping, just silence. Heavy, thoughtful. The director let out a long breath. "We're good," he said. "We're very good." "Yes." Walked off set. Something strange happened. A grip patted his shoulder. The gaffer gave him a nod. Even the makeup. Artist smiled softly as he passed. But what stayed with Zeke the most? Was Keanu Dot? He didn't say anything, just gave a quiet nod. A nod that said more than praise ever could that night. Zeke sat in his trailer. Script pages scattered on the floor. But he wasn't reading them. He was thinking. About everything he'd been taught, everything he thought he knew, and how one moment, one quiet, generous moment had changed the entire shape of his journey, because sometimes the loudest lesson doesn't come from being corrected. It comes from being shown another way. The weight of a Namath rain tapped soft against the windows that morning. Not hard enough to be a storm. It's not soft enough to ignore. It was the kind of weather that made you think more, feel more. Remember things you didn't plan to, and Zeke felt it in his chest the second he stepped outside his trailer. He clutched his hoodie tighter around his frame, coffee in one hand, headphones in the other, but he didn't press play. Not today. Something about the silence felt right. Word had spread across the lot, not just about the scene, but about what happened before it. People whispered, but not in mockery this time. They spoke with a strange mix of respect and curiosity. Everyone knew how Zeke came in, loud, impatient, carrying himself like he had something to prove. And now, after only a few days, he was different. Not completely changed, but quieter. Listening more, reacting less. The funny thing was, no one mentioned the insult out loud. Not once. It was like they all silently agreed to let it go. Because Keanu had let it go. And if he wasn't holding it, who else had the right to? But Zeke hadn't forgotten. Not even close. He could still hear his own voice in his head dripping with ego. I don't get the hype. Cringed every time it came back. Today's shoot was off-site. A night scene in the city. Street lights, background extras, a slow-moving camera dolly. Zeke was only in one of the scenes, just a few lines, but he arrived. Hours early anyway. He didn't know why. Maybe part guilt. Maybe part hope that Keanu would be there too. And he was. Keanu stood beside the camera cart, sipping tea, wrapped in a light jacket. The city lights made shadows on his face, but there was a calm glow in his eyes. He wasn't talking to anyone, just watching the setup quietly, nodding as a grip explained a change in the blocking. Zeke walked up slowly. He didn't say anything at first, just stood beside him. After a moment, Keanu glanced sideways and smiled. You came early, he said. Zeke nodded. Felt right. Keanu's smile deepened just a little. Sometimes just being present is the work. They stood in silence for a while, listening to the city hum around them. Then Zeke turned and spoke, voice low. I've been thinking a lot about what I said. That first day, Keanu didn't answer. He waited. Zeke went on. I was trying to act like I wasn't scared, like I had it all figured out. I didn't. I still don't. Keanu looked at him, eyes kind but focused. We're all figuring it out. Every day. Zeke shook his head. But what I said wasn't just about you. It was about me not wanting to feel small. Keanu's voice was gentle. There's nothing wrong with feeling small sometimes. It means you're aware. It means you're still growing. Zeke looked away, his throat tightening. You didn't have to help me. Keanu took a slow breath. Maybe not. But someone helped me once. When I didn't know what I was doing, when I was scared I didn't belong. Zeke turned back, surprised. Who? Keanu looked out toward the set, his gaze distant for a moment. River Phoenix. First time I ever doubted myself on a big project, he stayed late with me, ran lines, reminded me why I started acting in the first place. I didn't judge me, just gave me space to learn. Zeke had heard the name before, the stories, the friendship. But hearing it like this, quiet, raw, human, it made something shift deep in him. So now, Keanu said softly, I try to do the same if someone needs it. Zeke nodded, emotion tight in his chest. Then, almost without thinking, he said, Do you think I deserve to be here? Keanu turned and looked at him fully now. Not as a mentor, not as a star, but as a man who had seen fear before. You're here, he said. That means something. Zeke blinked. It's not really an answer. Keanu smiled gently. It's not about deserving. It's about showing up. Again and again. Doing the work. Listening. Giving space for others to shine too. If you keep doing that, you'll grow into someone who doesn't need to ask that question anymore. Zeke stood in the quiet, the sound of a passing bus in the distance. Then he whispered, I want to get better. Keanu nodded once. Good. That night when the cameras rolled, Zeke said his lines with a new kind of ease. Not because he wanted to impress, but because he finally believed the words mattered. And when he looked at Keanu in the scene, he didn't feel like he was acting with a legend. He felt like he was working with someone who believed in him. Later, while the crew packed up lights and cleared cables, Zeke stayed behind. He helped move a crate, held a ladder steady. No one asked him to. And before he left, the director stopped him near the exit. Strong work today, he said. Your timing's getting sharper. Zeke smiled faintly. Thanks. The director tilted his head. You and Keanu have a good rhythm. Glad to see it. You've come a long way since day one. Zeke's smile faded just a little. Yeah. I said some things. First day. That I regret. The director looked at him for a moment, then patted his shoulder. We all start somewhere, he said. It's how you move forward that people remember. As Zeke stepped out into the cool night air, the city lights flickering against the wet pavement, he looked up at the sky. Still cloudy, still gray, but somehow it didn't feel heavy anymore. One line, one truth. Week moved faster than Zeke expected. Scenes came and went. Cables coiled, lights shifted. Extras swapped out. Every day brought new pages, new blocking, new camera angles. But for Zeke, it wasn't the acting that felt. Different it was the way he moved through the space. Quieter now. Less needing to prove. More needing to understand. His trailer no longer felt like a hiding place. It was a space to prepare, to breathe. Every time he stepped out, he walked with intention. Not ego, not fear, just presence. But on the 5th day of the shoot, something changed again, out around him. Inside, they were rehearsing a key, emotional scene. One that was going to be used in the trailer. The producers were on set. There was pressure in the air, invisible, but thick. Like everyone had inhaled it without knowing. The scene had only one line for Zeke, just one. But the director had emphasized its importance. When you deliver that line, the director told him, I want people to feel it in their chest, like a memory they can't quite escape. The line was simple. You left. And that broke something. I didn't know could break. Keanu would be facing away from him in the scene, no reaction shot. The focus would be on Zeke's face. Raw, bare, exposed. But in rehearsal, Zeke kept missing it, not the words. He remembered them fine, but the feeling each time he spoke, it landed like paper. Not weight, not blood, just air. The director's brow furrowed after the 4th take. Cut, he said. Not angry, just disappointed. Zeke stepped back, jaw tight. You could feel the eyes on him, not cruel, not mocking, just waiting. Then came the worst moment. One of the producers, middle-aged, man with a too-tight tie and a coffee, always in hand, walked over to the director and whispered, not quiet enough. Maybe we cast the wrong guy for this part. Zeke heard it, so did Keanu, and for the first time in days, Zeke's hands started shaking again. He stepped behind one of the set walls and sat on a sandbag, shoulders hunched, eyes staring at the floor. The words echoed in his skull. Maybe we cast the wrong guy. He didn't cry, but something cracked inside. He didn't see Keanu. Approached, didn't hear the footsteps. Just felt the soft thud of someone sitting beside him. Keanu didn't speak at first. Just sat there, still like he always did then. In a voice quiet enough to get through the noise in Zeke's head, he asked, What do you think is stopping the line? Zeke shook his head. I don't know. I've said it 20 times in my trailer. It worked then. That's not what I asked, Keanu said gently. I asked, what's stopping you? Zeke's throat tightened. Maybe I'm not good enough, he muttered. Keanu was silent for a few seconds. Then he spoke calm. Honest, sharp. Do you believe the line? Zeke looked over. Of course. No, Keanu said, eyes steady. I mean, do you believe it? Have you lived it? Can you feel it when you say it? Or are you just trying to say it perfectly? Zeke's mouth opened, then closed. And that's when it hit him. He hadn't thought about the truth behind the line. He'd been performing it, shaping it, polishing it like a mirror. But it wasn't reflecting anything real. I don't know, Zeke whispered. Keanu leaned back, hands resting on his knees. The first time I lost someone, he said slowly. I didn't cry right away. I just sat in a hallway, quiet, numb. People walked past. No one looked twice. But something inside me had cracked. Something small but deep. Zeke looked at him, eyes wide. And then Keanu went on. 2 days later, I heard a voice on the radio. Some song we used to play. And I said the words, You're not here anymore, and I broke. Not loud, not dramatic, just broke. He turned to Zeke. "That line," he said, "isn't about yelling. It's not about performance. It's about that moment. When you realize someone left and something in you quietly stops working the way it used to." Zeke swallowed hard, and for the first time he understood. Not the line, the pain behind it. A memory surfaced, one he hadn't touched in years. Standing in the doorway as his father drove off. No explanation, no promise, just dust on the road. In silence in the house that followed, he didn't cry back then either. He just sat in his room, listening for footsteps that never returned. Zeke stood, slowly walked back onto the set. He didn't ask for another rehearsal. He just nodded at the director. They rolled the camera. He took his mark. Keanu stood in front of him, back turned, and Zeki didn't act. He remembered, he felt, and when he spoke, you left. And that broke something I didn't know could break. His voice trembled, his eyes watered, but he didn't push. He let it sit, raw, quiet, real. The director didn't say cut right away. He waited until the silence came part of the scene. Then, finally whispered, "Cut." No one clapped. No one needed to. The sound man wiped his eye. The camera operator gave a small nod. The producer didn't say a word as Zeke stepped off set. He didn't smile, didn't celebrate. He just exhaled. And for the first time since this project started, he felt light, like he belonged. Keanu approached, slow and steady, and instead of saying anything, he held out his hand. Zeke shook it, grip firm, equal, and in that one silent gesture, everything was said. The call sheet and the curvy-balthy call sheet arrived at 5:12 a.m. sharp, as it always did. But this one looked different. Under the bold black lines and scene numbers, right above the notes about lighting changes and costume checks, was something new. Scene 62. Improv option. Director's discretion. Zeke stared at the words. They were harmless on the surface, just production terms, nothing special. But anyone who'd been on a set long enough knew what that really meant. Someone was testing something, and more often than not, it wasn't a test for fun. The air on set that morning felt tight. It's not tense like before, more like something about to happen, like the sky right before thunder. People were friendly, but their voices were softer. Even the coffee line was quieter. Zeke could feel it in the way crew members looked at him as that lingered a little longer than normal. When he reached his trailer, there was a sticky note on the mirror. Scene 62 is yours. Trust yourself. K. No signature needed. Just the letter. The presence. Zeke read it twice. Then again, this was the final scene of the shoot, the emotional end of the film, and now it was his. No rehearsal, no cue. No Keanu in the frame this time, just Zeke, a bench, a camera. In a moment, he paced the floor, ran the script in his head. There were no lines written for this version, only a situation. The character realizes they've been holding back, and now they let go. That was it. No action, no direction. Only that he didn't know how long he stood there, staring at his reflection. But eventually, he stepped outside. The scene was set in a small park area they built near the edge of the lot. Fake grass, a bench, a lamppost. A few background extras sitting far away, out of focus. As he walked toward it, he saw Keanu standing off to the side. It's not in the scene, not even near the director. Just watching, quiet, present. Supporting without needing to speak, the director approached Zeke. "Camera's ready," said. "We'll roll long. You do what feels right. If it crashes, we stop. If it works, we wrap the film on you." Those last words hit Zeke harder than he expected. Wrap the film on you. He stepped onto the set, sat on the bench, let the cool wind move across his face. A small earpiece buzzed in. The assistant director's voice, rolling. No, silence. Then the world shrunk. No crew, no camera, no city, just Zeke. He stared ahead, let the air move in and out of his chest. And for a few seconds, he didn't know what to do. But then he let the quiet settle. And words came, not from a script, not from memory, from truth. "I thought being seen would fix something in me," he said softly. "I thought if I did everything right, if I said all the lines perfectly, if I looked the part, people would know I belonged." He paused, looked down at his hands. "But I was just scared. Scared they'd figure out I didn't know what I was doing. Scared they'd look. To close and realize I wasn't enough." His voice cracked. "But then someone looked at me and didn't need me to be perfect. He just gave me time." A single tear slid down his cheek. "I was cruel to him. I was stupid. And he helped me anyway. He made space for me to grow. I want to live the rest of my life remembering that someone believed in me before I believed in myself." He looked up, into the distance. Maybe that's what this whole thing is about. Not just being seen, but being seen and still being treated with kindness. The wind blew softly. The camera kept rolling. He sat still for a while longer. Then whispered, "Thank you." Cut. The silence after the scene was longer than expected. Then a voice came through the earpiece. "The director, we got it." Zeke looked around. People had gathered near the monitors. Eyes glassy. Shoulders still, and Keanu still, standing off to the side, gave one nod. Slow, firm, no clapping. Just respect. As Zeke stood from the bench, the director walked toward him. No words at first. Just a hand on the shoulder. "You didn't crash," he said. "You soared." The rest of the day blurred. Announcements.
Cue speeches.
Crew members hugging goodbye, but Zeke wasn't ready to leave just yet. He walked toward Keanu, who stood near the edge of the lot, sipping his tea like always. "Hey," Zeke said. Keanu turned, soft smile in his eyes. "Hey, I think I get it now," Zeke said. "What you been trying to show me?" Keanu didn't answer. "Just let him speak. It's not about being the best in the room. It's about making space for others to breathe." Keanu nodded. "You remembered the most important line." Zeke tilted his head. "What line?" Keanu smiled. "The one you didn't say out loud but meant with your heart." And with that, Keanu reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a small, folded piece of paper. He handed it to Zeke. Zeke opened it. Inside, just a few words written in careful handwriting. "You became the actor others will remember, because you remembered what it meant to feel invisible." Zeke looked up, but Keanu had already turned, already walking away, not for attention, not for credit, just moving quietly like he always did, leaving behind a legacy that wasn't about fame or spotlight, but about grace. The last take, never seen set, was gone. Packed into crates and trucks, the lights were dim, the trailers empty. Only the echoes of memory remained, footsteps over gravel, the hum of camera fans, quiet laughter between takes. It all belonged to yesterday now. But for Zeke, it still pulsed through his bones. The wrap party was held in a small rented hall. Music low, drinks flowing, photos pinned to corkboards. Everyone smiled, but the exhaustion was clear. It's not just physically emotional. The kind that comes after you give something real, something honest. Zeke stood in the corner near the punch table, dressed simple, hoodie, worn jeans. Eyes scanning the room. Keanu wasn't there. He hadn't come for the speeches, hadn't walked the photo line. No one seemed surprised. He wasn't the kind to show up for the applause. He showed up when it mattered. And maybe this moment didn't need him, but Zeke felt something. It's unfinished. Not a scene, a sentence, a question he never got to ask. He slipped out quietly, unnoticed by most. The city was cold. Streetlights blinked in fog. He walked aimlessly at first, thoughts spinning. Then he remembered something. Keanu had once mentioned a bookstore, an old place tucked between a laundry shop and a closed-down diner, he'd said. It with a soft smile. "I like the quiet there. Books don't expect you to be someone else." It was a long shot. But Zeke walked anyway. It was open, barely. Lights dim. Warm air and the smell of paper. A bell jingled above the door, and thereby the philosophy shelf stood. Keanu. A paperback in his hand. A paperback in his hand. He looked up and smiled. Not surprised, not startled, just welcoming. "Hey," Keanu said gently. Zeke stepped forward, hands in pockets. "You really don't like parties, huh?" Keanu shrugged. "I like beginnings more than endings." Zeke smiled softly. "I guess I do too." They stood there in the quiet, the hum of the heater the only sound. Then Zeke finally said what had lived inside him since day one. "Why didn't you say anything when I insulted you?" Keanu looked at him. Not defensive, not distant, just present. "Because I've been that person," he said. "The one trying too hard. The one who thinks respect has to be earned by showing teeth. And someone gave me grace when I didn't deserve it. I figured you might need that too." Zeke's throat tightened. "You didn't know me that." "True," Keanu said. "But someone once told me, kindness is what you give when you don't have to." Zeke sat down on the small bench near the entrance. His voice came quiet, like a confession. "I think I was afraid you'd make me feel small." Keanu sat beside him. "You don't make someone feel small by being great," he said. "You make them feel small by forgetting they matter." Zeke looked down at his shoes. "I didn't know who I was at the start of this film. And now?" Keanu asked. Zeke thought for a long moment. "Now I know I want to be someone who makes space. Someone who listens. Someone who doesn't just show up to be shine but to see." Keanu's eyes softened. "Then you've already become more than most." They sat there for a while, not needing to fill the silence. Eventually Zeke pulled something from his coat pocket. A folded paper, creased at the edges. "You gave me this," he said, holding it out. "The note about being the actor people remember." Keanu nodded. Zeke handed it back. "I want you to keep it. Because you were that actor for me." Keanu didn't argue, just accepted it quietly. Then he opened the book he had been holding. Inside the cover, he scribbled something quickly, tore out the page and handed it to Zeke. Zeke unfolded it. One sentence. "Keep your heart open. The world will try to close it." Beneath it, one small letter, Tot Kno name. Just that night, Zeke walked back through the city streets with that page. In his hand, the film would come out in 6 months. Trailers, premieres, red carpets, and when it did, people talked about the performance, about the depth, about that scene on the bench, but no one ever knew the real story, about the boy who came to the set to prove he was someone, and the man who helped him become someone worth being. They never knew. The insult, the silence, the offer to run lines anyway. But Zeke remembered every line, every pause, every quiet nod that changed everything. And for the rest of his life, on every set, in every room, he carried that moment with him. Not for fame, not for credit, but to be the reason someone else could breathe a little easier. And in that way, he became the actor Keanu Reeves had quietly believed he could be.